Now let's begin with the first question for our candidates here tonight. We'll begin with you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Explain what motivated you to run for election.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Chamber, the Scottsbluff-Gearing United Chamber of Commerce, for hosting this event, and to the Rural Radio Network for all of this and making this possible. You know, I've kept my pulse on the county commissioners over the last year, and I've been coming to the commissioner meetings now for some time. I've been really dismayed with the lack of professionalism, and I've been concerned with the way the commissioners have treated the employees, and really frustrated with some of the policy decisions. As a lawyer, I'm familiar with the laws that govern the commissioner and the commissioners in this board, as well as the laws and the regulations that will come up as my time as county commissioner. I have personal management experience that I will use those skills that I learned working with employees, appointed officials, and with elected officials. I can bring a level of professionalism that this board is currently lacking. Also, I'm a homeowner and a citizen of your district, and I understand the frustration with the ever-growing property taxes in our area, and I will work to reduce property taxes while making sure that we enjoy the same level of services that we have grown accustomed to in this county. I will commit to making sure everyone has equal access to government and that their input and their questions are answered and appreciated. As county commissioner, I will take steps to ensure that county government works efficiently, avoid wasteful spending, and to promote respectful coordination between elected officials.
Okay. Jessica, anything you'd like to add?
No, I just would like to say that I, too, like some of our candidates, are born and raised in Nebraska. I understand community. I understand rural community and what that means. What it means to be a citizen of Nebraska in a small town. I've been in this particular community now for about 6 years. Prior to that, I was a police officer in Kimball. So I've worked in government most of my life, my adult life, my career, and I understand how government works, and I want to make sure that I bring that level of understanding to this board. Thank you.
Mark, anything else you'd like to add on that question? Okay. Jessica, what areas of county government interest you the most and why?
Well, for this election, taxes interest me the most. That's been one of my biggest concerns. And while I appreciate what Mr. Harris says, he has been on the board for quite some time, and that has not seemed to change. I think we need some fresh eyes on this problem. Maybe we can come up with some fresh solutions. I'm also really interested in transparency and access to government. I've been participating in government, like I said, most of my career. Prior to that, I've been, as a child, I went before commissioner and county city meetings because I wanted to be active in the government since a very young age. And I want to make sure that children and the youth in this area know that they can come in to these meetings as well. I'm also interested in the management because I think that ties into the taxes. The commissioner's job needs to be managing the elected officials and the appointed officials to make sure that budgets are set reasonably. I'm also very interested in professionalism. I think professionalism in government is something that needs to be at the utmost priority for local governments because we deal directly with the public on a daily basis, and we need to make sure we're not alienating anybody. I'm very interested in seeing this community grow. I have a young child here, and I want this to be a wonderful community for her as she gets older. Thank you.
Okay. Jessica, the next question is for you.
Yes.
Paid holidays for employees continues to be a subject of debate between the board and the personnel committee. How many paid holidays should staff receive per year and why?
I'm really glad you asked this question. Thank you. This has been a topic of great debate amongst the commissioners and amongst the staff. I do believe that there should be the 13 holidays. And the reason I believe that is the county staff wants that. We have a county staff that is very unsatisfied right now with the commissioners. They've come in repeatedly to commissioner meetings and have said and expressed their frustrations and their disgruntledness. Adding an extra day is not going to change the taxes or the budgets. Whether the person is here working on a day when the state has holidays off is not going to change. I apologize. They're going to be paid whether they're here working on a day that a state has a holiday or whether they're at home. So I think that they should have those 13 days. I've spoke repeatedly about this at the commissioner meetings, and there was a proposal up at the last commissioner meeting, and I believe Mr. Harris had voted yes on it actually. And I agree with him on that vote of yes. I think that the county employees deserve more, and they're not getting paid like the private sector, so comparing them to the private sector is not appropriate, and they should get that extra holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Jessica, anything you'd like to add?
I apologize, he didn't vote yes. What I meant was he had thrown out a solution for that Christmas holiday is what I was thinking of, on Christmas Eve, having a half of a day. And I appreciate commissioners that can try and work with employees to come up with reasonable solutions. Here's the thing, though. I used to be a deputy county attorney in this county, and I've recently gone into private practice. And yes, I don't get as many paid holidays now, but the wages that you get working for the county are much lower than that of the private sector. Thank you.
Mark, anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Thanks, Mark. Jessica, when it comes to administration of the departments reporting to the board, what is the proper level of oversight that commissioners should exercise?
Well, I believe that the commissioners need to be working with the elected officials to make sure they have meaningful access to the board so that the elected officials have their finger on the pulse when they come in here to talk. I think that they need to know what's going on, what decisions are on the table. And there needs to be more communication between the county commissioners and the elected officials. Well, I agree with Mr. Harris that the board doesn't oversee them the way they do the appointed officials. They do have some level of management. They are supposed to be the body of government that's looked up to for those decision-making questions that come up from the other elected officials. And so if you build a really good relationship with those people who are in those positions, I don't think that you have to have micromanagement of them. As far as the appointed officials, again, I understand there's a higher level of management. And again, I don't think micromanagement is appropriate. I don't know how to build a road. So if the road superintendent comes in and wants to describe to me how to build the road, I would defer to them. I'm going to listen to them and take their expert advice. I understand there are times when there's going to be disagreements, and that's when your professionalism and your personnel management skills would come into place. You don't have to be heavy-handed, and you don't have to micromanage to get the job done. Thank you.
Mark, anything you'd like to add?
No, we'll leave it at that for now.
Okay. Jessica, we'll start with you with the next question. You just talked about roads. The county has hundreds of miles of paved and gravel roadways, many of which could use improvement. What ideas do you have to speed up that process?
Well, things just got a little hairier with the commissioner meeting a couple of days ago. We now have a vacancy in the roads department, which is going to be a major hindrance on that progress. It was my understanding that there were some things that were in play to make sure that the roads got taken care of in a more timely fashion when problems got called in, and there were some other plans in place for improvement that are now probably going to be stalled. So my first order of business in this particular area would be to hire somebody who can manage that roads department, manage it efficiently, and make sure that we can get the roads where they need to be in this county. I personally have been stuck on a county road in the mud after a heavy rain, and I remember how frustrated I felt. I can't imagine what the people who live out on those county roads deal with every time it rains or heavy snows. We have to figure it out, but we need leadership in those departments with those skills that know how to do that, because that is not my area of expertise. But I would defer to somebody and their expertise in managing that. Thank you.
Jessica?
Well, I don't say yes to every project or every idea that comes my way, but asking a lawyer how to build a road or maintain a gravel road, it's not probably going to get you very far. So I, using the skills that I have, would reach out to people who do have those skills, and I would listen to them. I would make sure that we were doing projects that were manageable within our budget, and I would make sure that the citizens of this county are getting the services they deserve at a reasonable cost.
Mark, anything you'd like to
I
add?
would only say that I hope that what has been here in the past has been professional people. And even with those professional people, you still have times and places where someone gets stuck in the mud. But these county roads are extremely critical to our farm and ranch people. And they have to be maintained well. It's a big, big part of our business in Scottsbluff County, and we have to maintain them and keep them in good enough shape for commerce to proceed.
We're not coming back to roads after this. Jessica, anything else you want to ask or add?
No, thank you.
Okay. Jessica, what role should the county play when it comes to development of workforce and workforce housing?
Well, I do believe that the county needs to be encouraging businesses to come here. We have a lot of things in this community that can pull businesses in. We are a major hub for the Panhandle. And so if we could reach out to the right businesses and get some other markets here, I think that would be beneficial. I do agree that the housing issue is a supply and demand issue. I don't think that the county should be building houses or being funding any of that. I would say I was a police officer in Kimball, Nebraska, which most of you know is just south of here. And in the 70s, they had the oil boom, and there was a huge housing crisis when that happened, and people were moving in to houses and over-occupying them. And then as soon as the oil boom was over, everybody flooded out, and the town became much smaller. So a get-rich-quick scheme isn't going to work for Scottsbluff. In fact, I think it would be harmful. What we need is slow growth that is consistent and steady. Slow and steady would win the race in this. And I would work with our industry leaders to promote professional training in the Panhandle, to encourage young professionals to come in and stay in this area. If we can attract young professionals and keep them here, I think that would be huge for our community.
Okay, Jessica, our next question's for you.
Okay.
If a horse racing track and casino are built outside of Gering, the county stands to receive a considerable amount of funding from those industries. What would be the best use of such revenue?
Oh, wow. So I haven't actually thought about that because we've been in such a revenue crunch for so long. I think that we need to work on infrastructure in this community. It's my understanding from talking with the former roads department, Linda, that there's a lot of bridges in this community and there's a lot of roads that need to be worked on, maintained, repaired, and possibly some new construction. So that infrastructure would always be probably my go-to on that if we had extra money. I haven't looked too much into how those laws will delegate how that money is spent through the communities, and sometimes when there's things like that, there's restrictions on how the board can use that money. So obviously that would dictate my decision in that. But at this point, I'm just going to stick with infrastructure is going to be my big.
Okay. Jessica, anything you'd like to add?
Again, some of those funds can be used for property tax relief. I would agree that would be a great place to put it if that's allowed, if we get it. One of the things I think would be important for the board to be cautious of is not to bank on that money, because it wouldn't be money, especially at the beginning. We would want to make sure we were getting a stable income before we considered that financial security for this community. I do support a racetrack going in if it comes to that, but at this point, I'm more concerned about the budget with the money we have right now, and that's where I spent most of my time focused.
Jessica, what do you believe is the proper balance to strike when considering valuation protests?
Thank you. So I have a unique perspective on this. As a deputy county attorney, I was delegated to go to the Turk meetings and the Turk hearings. That's the Tax Equalization and Review Committee. So after somebody does a protest here in the with the commissioners, if they still disagree, then they go to Turk. And so I got the opportunity of working with Angie Dillman, who is the county assessor. I also got to work with the state agencies who ran Turk. And we went out and we valued properties. We would reassess the value. If somebody wanted to know why their valuation was what it was, we would provide them spreadsheets and breakdowns of that. I went out and inspected properties with Angie and the state people to see that the evaluation was in fact correct of where we got. I think the biggest, most important piece of that protest process is making sure that we have the values of the property correct. Allowing the citizens to come in and show the board why they think that the assessed value is not the assessed value. Typically, they feel like it was assessed high, not low, if they're coming in. So why do they think that their value is not what Ms. Dillman's office says it is? And so I think that the board needs to be cognizant of the actual values of the properties in this community, and I have experience doing that.
Jessica, anything you'd like to add?
I would agree that the Turk hearings and the Turk protests were the more difficult ones. The ones, most of them are settled at the commissioner level. I just have experience dealing with those difficult ones, and I understand the process going forward. So I think that I would bring some value to the board when it comes to making those protest determinations.
Okay, Jessica, we hit on this briefly earlier, but many of the top administrative positions in the county are also elected. So what would you do to foster a spirit of cooperation with those officials?
No, I've worked with most of those officials through my capacity as deputy county attorney when I was doing that. And I've continued to work with almost all of them as a private attorney, actually. I work at the Register of Deeds regularly. I work with the assessor's office regularly. I work with the county clerk. The clerk of the district court is, of course, huge. I work with Dave Eubanks, the county attorney. I don't work with the surveyor so much, but I work with these people on a regular basis, and I've built relationships with them, and I've built lasting relationships with them. They know where I stand, I know where they stand, and I really believe that I have a working relationship with the people who are elected to this community. Right now, I know the Register of Deeds has somebody running against her, but I think all the other positions are going to be held by the same people. And that relationship going forward for the next 4 years is going to be instrumental in making sure that this county runs smoothly, efficiently, and cost effectively.
Jessica, anything you'd like to add?
I would. You know, we're a team. It's not us versus them. That goes for, it's not citizens versus elected officials, and it's not board versus elected officials. If you elect me to the commissioner, I'm an elected official as well. And Mr. Harris keeps saying sometimes you have to say no, and I always want to say yes, or sometimes you have to say no and you want to say yes. But there's another question you can ask, and that's how can we work together to get it done so that we can both meet our goals? And that is something that this board has not been doing. Those, I can't remember the word that was just used to describe them, but hard to get along with the people that are elected. It's because they're not being asked, well, how can we help you so you can help us? And that needs to be the question that's asked.
Jessica, I'll give you one more chance if you have anything else. Good?
I agree. It can't always be yes. It can't always be no. Sometimes it has to be how.
All right, last question, Jessica. At the end of a 4-year term, if you're elected, how would you define success?
Lower taxes for the people in my district, government accessibility, making sure that we're live streaming and we have access, having younger people involved in government decision making, and having a greater economic community tourism, and having well, you said this would be an easier question. I just want to keep going. I would like to see all of my agenda items met. That would be success to me. But taxes and then the professionalism and all of those components being worked into the board would be success.
Jessica, you have 60 seconds for a closing statement.
So I do need to address the red flag law. I was a law enforcement officer for some time, and the red flag law that was the way it was being presented here was talking about mentally ill people and law enforcement not being able to take their guns for a short period of time. I have seen suicide as a law enforcement officer. I have seen accidental discharges, negligent discharges of firearms. I'm an avid gun rights supporter. I own firearms. I regularly go out and shoot my firearms. I believe full-heartedly in the Second Amendment. All the amendments need full support of everybody in order to survive. And on this issue, I do believe law enforcement sometimes has to make very difficult decisions about the Second Amendment, as they do the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, and the First Amendment. I see my time is up. I spent most of my time replying to that. May I have some additional time?
We'll give you 30 seconds for
I
a statement.
appreciate that. One of the things I wanted to say was that I hear you to the commission, to the county employees. I hear you to the jail staff. When you're here at the meetings and you're telling the commissioners, we don't trust you, we have problems, we're losing faith, I hear you. And the commission recently told Linda that if I were you, I would just say I hear you and I'm sorry, and this is how I'm going to make it right. But yet when you come to them and address a problem, they simply defend their actions without asking you how to make it right. And I will listen to you and I will make it right.
Okay, we've come to the end. We want to thank both of our candidates running tonight for Scottsbluff County Commission District 5 for participating in the forum. We hope this helps you in deciding who you wish to vote for. As a reminder, in the May 10th primary election, you'll be allowed to vote for one candidate. The top vote getter in the primary election will advance to the November general election, most likely unopposed, as no other candidates have filed from other parties. This candidates forum is one of several being presented by the Government Affairs Committee of the Scottsbluff-Gehring United Chamber of Commerce. We again would like to thank the Rural Radio Scottsbluff staff for recording this forum so you can view it, the timers for volunteering, the chamber staff, and Scottsbluff County Clerk Kelly Sides for hosting us this evening in the Commissioner's Room. On behalf of the Scottsbluff-Gehring United Chamber of Commerce's Government Affairs Committee, and for my co-chair, Don Wolf, I'm Bill Boyer. Thanks again for joining us, and remember to get out.